Rome, the great city, needs no introduction. From its founding as an obscure marsh town in the mythical epoch of the early Iron Age, to its preeminent status today as one of the world's iconic heritage sites. The place has awed visitors for close to 3,000 years. Still a sprawling metropolis today, relics of the past can still be seen on almost every street corner, from Mussolini to the Renaissance. Famous in mythology as much as history and genuine archaeology. Since its mythical founding in the 8th century BC, by the orphaned boys raised by wolves, Romulus and Remus. For more than 1,000 years, this city politicked with its neighbours. Eventually, due to a unique mixture of grim determination, luck, and links to the Greek world, absorbing every neighbouring power one by one into its ever-growing imperium. Lurching from city-state to republic to empire. By the 2nd century AD, at its maximum territorial extent, Roman culture spread from the Scottish Marches to the Indian Ocean. All roads led to Rome. The rest is history. By 2020, one could be forgiven for thinking much of the archaeology of the city is already completed. Most of the story already told. However, this is far from the truth. Much like most sprawling cities of the modern world with ancient foundations, whenever construction projects take place, a new apartment building proposed, new shopping mall or sports stadium built, the archaeologists move in. More often than not, revealing astonishing new insights into the still standing ancient layers below modern streets. Though, of course, given the sheer complexity and extent of the modern cities, breakthroughs are few and far between, dictated by the whim of construction companies. Yet Rome wasn't the only imperial city in Italy. A dizzying array of thriving satellite settlements surrounding the capital. Many of which, like the massive port city of Ostia, have been excavated to a certain extent. Some never having been built over in the centuries following their fall, revealing much of this ancient world. Now, in 2020, astonishingly, an entire Roman city just outside the capital has not only been found, but mapped in its entirety, using cutting-edge ground-penetrating radar technology. Technology unheard of until just a few years ago. Without even digging into the ground, archaeologists here have located never-before-seen monuments, bathhouses, apartment buildings, and temples. An entire city undisturbed since its death in late antiquity, over 1,300 years ago. Let's take a look. Before we return to the ancient world, I'd like to tell you about my favourite app on my phone. It's Audible. Since I first signed up to Audible 3 years ago, I've listened to nearly 80 audiobooks, including this brilliant title on ancient Rome, that if you're interested in this video, I highly recommend checking out. Audible is great for filling up otherwise empty time, like doing the washing up, taking the bus to work, or going to the shops. For just a small monthly fee, you get one title every single month, which you can keep forever, even if you cancel your account, along with access to all manner of Audible originals and podcasts. And of course, your credits roll over each month. I'm delighted to announce that I've teamed up with Audible to offer you an exclusive month-long free trial. Just head on over to audible.com/Pete Kelly or text Pete Kelly to 500 500. Now, back to the ancient world. 30 miles north of Rome, in the picturesque valley of the Tiber, an ancient city stands undisturbed on the landscape. This is Falerii Novi. In its construction, it's not a particularly unusual place, one of thousands spread across the Italian heartlands during antiquity. Like Constantinople of the later Byzantine Age, this was just one of a wealth of satellite communities living parasitically from the much larger capital. In return for manufacturing goods for the capital, enjoying connections all across the Mediterranean, and access to food from Africa, Greece, Hispania, and beyond. Though intimately tied to the fortunes of the mother city. Like many Roman cities, Falerii Novi had its roots not with the inhabitants of the great city, but with one of her rivals, a mountain people known as the Faliscii, swept aside during her rise to power. This place did not appear spontaneously, but was pre-planned, purpose-built in 241 BC to house the rebellious inhabitants of one of the Falisci tribes, inhabitants of Falerii Veteres, following an unsuccessful revolt against Roman dominance. Situated on a slight volcanic plateau with few natural obstacles, the new settlement was a much less defensible position than the mountains from which the Faliscii had sprung, thus ensuring no future trouble from the roughly 2,500 people relocated here, who, over time, like similar cities from Scotland to Palestine, became just as Roman as the citizens of the great city itself, growing in population in the process. In time, this city in the Tiber Valley would become walled, growing prosperous over hundreds of years. Interestingly, like many places in Europe, from Cumbria to the Balkans, some form of society here even survived the fall of the empire. Though it remains debatable how Roman they saw themselves as. Then, by around 700 AD, the place was abandoned for good. Its grand colonnades and houses, already for the most part having crumbled away, buried over time as the ground level steadily rose. What makes this place special, however, is that for the most part, nothing was built here ever again. By the 12th century, the only visible building was the church of Santa Maria de Falerii. Finally, by the year 2000, the town was surveyed as part of the Tiber Valley project, investigating urbanisation of this region by the Romans. Soon enough, it was clear that this place had once been a thriving settlement. Then, in 2020, new technologies were used to amazing effect. when archaeologists used ground-penetrating radar to map the site, each electromagnetic wave bouncing back to create a 3D image. They could scarcely believe what they had found. Though not quite as grand as the famous lost city of Pompeii, the settlement destroyed in 79 AD and covered over intact by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, Falerii Novi nonetheless survives in its entirety too, providing never-before-seen insights into this long-lost world. Once made up of 75 acres of sprawling city streets, houses, temples, markets, bathhouses, home to thousands of people of the Roman Empire. A place for shopping at the local market, bathing in the public buildings, going to the theatre, a lifestyle not too dissimilar to today, long since swept away by time. Perhaps most importantly, Falerii Novi is providing archaeologists with new insights into how this settlement was organised, compared to other so-called normal Roman towns, usually having pretty uniform features. Falerii Novi, whilst having the same basic outline as most Roman settlements, is pretty unusual too. One feature in particular is something that has no parallel anywhere else in Roman archaeology. This public monument, sitting near the north gate, surrounded on three sides by a covered passageway with a central row of columns, thought to be more than 550 feet long, opens out onto the street. On the inside sit a pair of never-before-seen structures, each with its own alcove facing one another. Features that may never have been found had modern archaeology not been used, and now potentially can be excavated without spending years of painstaking searching. Interestingly, there are also other structures which are much more elaborate than would be expected for a Roman settlement of this size. An elaborate public bathhouse, complete with outdoor swimming pool. To the west, a large housing complex, the homes here having been remodelled over time, completed by a plunge bath, vaulted rooms with central heating, and a U-shaped area most likely serving as an exercise room. A second housing complex is present too, lined with decorative passageways, connected by an underground aqueduct running through the whole city, past streets and under city blocks. Researchers also found temples at the city limits, suggesting a sacred use of land here, some potentially predating the rest of the settlement. Ground-penetrating radar and other similar technologies like LiDAR quite simply have the potential to revolutionise archaeological study of urban sites. What more will be found at other places around the world? This is an amazing era for archaeology. No longer does the ground have to be broken to uncover secrets of the ancient world, saving huge amounts of time and energy in the long run. Watch this space. You've been watching Archaeology News. My name's Pete Kelly. Don't forget to like and subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.